What's up? Welcome back to another episode of What They Don't Tell You. I'm your host, Jacob, along with the other host,
Aiden. We're here to bring you our perspective on news, facts, culture, and what we believe to be true about them.
Alright guys, in today's episode we're going to be talking about Michigan's Board of Education and their absolutely disastrous people and boards and all the crap. So Aiden, you ready?
Okay, way to start. No, I'm not ready, but I'm going to do it anyway. Unless I'm
Alright.
not ready because this is terrible. Okay, so Michigan has adopted a new framework for their biological health standards. They were last revised in 2007, and they've decided that that is outdated. The thinking that boys are boys and girls are girls and being, gay is immoral, whether or not, we still care about those people, but it's immoral. That, we'll probably get some backlash for that, but that's okay. They've decided that they're going to promote that and teach that, potentially. So they're revising the guidelines. Now, I would like to state that this is a recommendation and that the districts still do decide based on their school boards whether they're going to opt in, and parents can still opt their children out of this. But the goal in this situation is by 8th grade, and I'm going to check my notes here to make sure
8th grade is,
right.
that's insane.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
like,
getting this right. But 8th grade, for example, students should be able to define gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation, and explain that they are distinct components of every individual's identity. So that's fun. That's really fun. Here's the bigger problem with that, guys. To me, let's come back here. To me, the bigger problem with that is that over this will branch out into every other area of the school. So essentially, what it would also be saying, for at least some schools that opt in, is that that isn't just restricted to like sex ed. That could be implemented into other, and that's what we worry most about, right? Because we uncovered like pornographic books. We uncovered when people started going into the schools, going into school libraries, finding what was actually being stocked. They found a lot of these terrible things. This may allow them to reinstitute some of those things. I'm not saying it will. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm not saying everyone's evil about it. I'm not saying everyone is. But it might allow them to start doing those things, and it might start to overflow into the other areas of education where they shouldn't be, based on, that's the concern at least of some parents, based on the way the guidelines are now written. Again, there is a parent opt-out of sex ed in general, so that at least is a win, but that's not good enough to me. I don't think this should be taught at all, because they're enforcing what their ideas onto us, onto the next generation.
the opting out of is it's not like, I feel like, okay, the parents that are like, okay, I want to see my kid the right way, that's when they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna opt him out or whatever. But a lot of these parents don't care. A lot of these
they
parents
don't
have
know.
time
They're super
to
uninformed.
they don't have time. They're not home. They're not home all the time. They're both working late shifts. They're not finding out what's happening. So they're just like, oh, whatever, just I'll sign whatever the paper is. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and they don't have to sign anything. They have to choose to opt out. They don't have to choose to stay.
So
in.
it's you're already in, and then you have to sign it.
That's my understanding of it as of right now. Yes.
Lazy parents, just not.
Yeah, they're not going to be
everybody
informed,
is,
right?
but they're not going to be informed. They're not going to get the information as quickly as they need. So.
Yeah, and I do have a pretty big issue with this, because you shouldn't be promoting. Look, I'm okay with like understanding the idea, understanding even maybe what's wrong with it, because I do believe that it is primarily wrong to teach our children that. It's just not the natural order of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't reflect the reality. It's not true as we see truth. So I don't like it, obviously, but that doesn't mean it's not here right now. So we need to acknowledge it and figure out the best way to fight it. I am glad that there's an opt-out scenario, but I do think that they're well aware. The people that might have a malicious intent behind this, I'm not saying everyone does. I think people are just really sadly misguided. Brainwashed. But the people that do have the malicious intent behind it do know that parents, they don't pay attention. So this is going to get taught to a lot of kids. Obviously pretty unhealthy. 8th grade. They should be able to, have, and I don't know how like deep this goes, but I'm like, what, like every single like gender that you've made up, all these different things, and so
the book's gonna be like this long, like
yeah, a new one gets invented every minute. So to me, the biggest issue is just, again, the continued promotion of how can we make sure that all these children understand this, so we can have this, and then you see these super messed up kids who are insecure, depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have Michigan High School is in the Elite 8 with the trans athlete.
I mean, and again, you see the like, again, that's insane. We've talked about that before. We'll probably have to talk about it again. The Olympics are coming up, so all that's gonna be brought up again.
I think they did.
But
I think the Olympics actually said that.
did they
was,
crack down on it?
Okay.
Okay, I still think it's probably gonna come up.
It will probably come up, at least somewhat, for some complaints.
But like you're saying, we have all these kids that are depressed, they're suicidal, they're
Yep. They don't know who they are.
They're
no one's telling them.
They don't know what they're doing. And then you see people like Thomas Matthew Crooks or Tyler Robinson, these people like that, which showed on, like, they have proof that they were involved with this stuff. And there's a reason from these actions. You know what I mean? And so I think it comes down to they're just promoting their agenda. They're trying to push this onto people. They're trying to take away the parents' say in how they raise their own children.
Yeah, and I do think, and this is a little bit of conjecture, but there is some grounding to this. Children especially, I do want to say this, they are better with an order in their lives than the chaos that this provides, because they're taught, oh, you can be happy with this, you can be happy with this. The problem is that thing does not provide happiness in out of itself. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the world can provide lifelong happiness in out of itself, except for, and yes, I would say I'm a Christian, Jesus Christ. That's the only thing that gives full satisfaction and inevitable happiness at some point. Everything else, though, is disordered. It doesn't feel right. But then they also just tell you, well, you know, it's different for every person. It's different for this, and then, but that doesn't bring that happiness either. And then you have this argument between two sides, and maybe that's the greatest, as C.S. Lewis would put it, that's a great argument for why objectivity does exist. Whenever we are choosing to argue with each other, that means we do believe that there's some kind of objective standard there, right? If I'm arguing with you over something, we both believe that there's an objective standard. So if I'm like, well, and now this is a really silly example, but like, and this doesn't apply actually to morality at all, and this could be subjective because everyone has different preferences about broccoli, but if I'm like, broccoli is terrible, and you're like, no, broccoli's good, and we start arguing about that, that means objectively one of us believes, as silly as that is, because that is a preference. I believe preferences can be subjective. As far as like little, not moral statements like food and, you know, things that don't affect your life, like whatever, you like a cheese.
How about the grass is green?
Yeah, the grass is green. Well, right, but there's an objective there.
One.
You don't know that, right? So you're saying, no, the grass isn't green. I'm like, well, the grass is green. And that means, to some degree, when we're quarreling over that we have a certain degree of belief inputted in that there is an objective standard there. And so that's the problem with teaching these kids that, too, is you're not giving them any objective standard. So they're going to go whichever way the wind blows, and it's going to hurt them in the long run.
And again, I think this comes down to morality. Again, I think it comes down to what is your sense of morality, what's your standard, where does that morality come from? And again, it's not subjective. Morality comes from the Bible, comes from God, because whenever you are aligning yourself with what Jesus taught, there are certain morals that you agree with and disagree with. And this is where we see this. And whenever you don't have that stand, that backbone, then everyth's out the window. So morality is subjective because you don't have a backbone to prove it. You don't have anything to who said the grass is green. Well, Bob said the grass is green, but Jim said it's blue. So who do I believe? That's what it comes down to. Absolutely.
And and again, there's better arguments for that. We're talking, so just let us be what it is. But for now, keep in mind Lewis's argument. One of his arguments. There's a lot of arguments for objective morality as far as our how they function. But one of them is the arguments proof essentially. Because if you're arguing, you'll believe in objective standard. So and again, when you try to deny that there is an objective standard at least, or an objective way you should live, then you seek internally, right? You start to become more craven. And again, Lewis talks about this in Abolition of Man a little bit, right? When you start to take away anything that gives evidence of life and truth and replace it with your own set of values, which is, in this case, everything's subjective, tolerate everything, love everyone, and it's not even really love, it's just affirmation, then what do we see? They've made up their own values, but those values don't reflect the way the universe works. And so then we see the cycle of depression and anxiety and not fitting in, and this doesn't work, and people don't like this. And so when you see that, you have to question, okay, so there is a way the natural world goes. And when you go along with that natural world, when it's like, okay, I'm straight, and I'm a dude. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's how I'm going to keep it. Now, again, I'm not accusing, and what I don't want to come down on is like, look, I don't believe that like gay people are like damned. I think that you just can't live that lifestyle. I still care about those people. I do not like the act. The act is sinful and wrong. So I want to be clear there. And now the trans thing, I do believe is just corrupt, disgusting, because they enforce it on children. But again, they don't have any grounding in something that's like, hey, the happiest demographic of women in America are married women with children. That should some empirical evidence does not always, because you can reason through some things, but empirical evidence does give you knowledge into the natural order of the world. If you see what's the most satisfied life, it's going to be someone who's reasoning with virtue. If you see the most happy life, it's going to be someone who's following their biology and also the correct order of that biology, get married, have children. Those are the happiest demographics of people, which can indicate something, right? Yeah. That indicates there's something right there.
It gives them the purpose of, I'm going to teach my children the ways of God.
And then
a good, stable home. And then they can do that for their children. That's how we have a good society, compared to, I'm just going to live my life. I'm not going to have children. I'm going to marry 8 guys and then sleep with 20 of them. And it's like, where is it at? You know what I mean?
And so the same for dudes, right? It's like, the pornography, it's everything. It's terrible with guys.
Hookup culture and all
Hookup culture, they're terrible. I mean, they're depraved. But again, they're never satisfied, or they wouldn't keep doing it, right? And so the people who have the most satisfaction in life and are the happiest are the married couples with children. Yes, usually stable jobs and stable income, all those things that you're searching for. And also the people, and this isn't always true, but the people that have some kind of religious background, specifically Christianity, has had the highest, especially in America, the highest satisfaction and happiness, who are taking their faith seriously. So again, that just all comes back to this. Anytime you're promoting this, anything that goes against the natural order of the universe, because again, when you start to believe it's subjective and you choose your own path as opposed to discovering a path, you create a path, it's gonna sting. It's not gonna work the way that you want it to work. And so eventually it's going to come back and hurt you and hurt your culture and your society, and then you see these levels of depression that give the empirical evidence to that. And so it's sad to see this. I think parents need to be very cognizant. Just opt your kid out if this does happen and go through. But otherwise, we need to fight this. No. Tooth and nail. It shouldn't be promoted in any school. And this gets into an opinion thing, and I want to hear your because this, I don't even know if I call this an opinion, but I think and do believe that parents should be responsible for teaching their kids about sex education. I do. Yeah. I guess if a parent wants to do it the wrong way, that's up to them. I don't like that. Every child deserves parents, but not every parent deserves a child, right? And so I would hope that the parents teach them the right way, but I think it should be up to the parents, not the school system.
I agree with you. I think that, again, the school system's not going to there's no background, there's no stance of where it comes from, right? Whenever you're in a Christian home, you're like, okay, this is made holy, this is made from God. Now, whenever the school, it's like, whatever, just
whatever you feel like.
Tomorrow, you can do it tonight, whatever.
Yep.
We don't care, just
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, and we see the nurseries in the schools nowadays. It's like,
and all they do is like warn you. They're like, oh, this could happen, and you're just like, well,
this
but
could
that's not
happen.
Telling them not to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
turn away.
I don't know. Now, before we wrap it up, I want to ask you one more question. What are so again, you said how like each district decides whether they want to do this.
Each school district decides whether they want to opt into the guidelines. It's recommended guidelines, not enforced guidelines.
So, what are the school, because I can see a lot of, this could go both ways, but how can families go against this, right? They can convince these principals, these district leaders, to not opt into this, to not do this. And then also, how could this spread to other states? What could we see for other states getting into this, and how can we stop it?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's a few ways. You can run to get on these school boards. You can do that. Always an option to consider. Otherwise, people did show up to protest that at the meeting. That you can go speak to the board. And so there are ways you can just try to convince them like that. Otherwise, it is a long and legal process that would probably involve some legal action against the school potentially later on. But the problem is you probably have to have proof of some kind of damage too. There's a lot of little different ways you can do this. Most of them probably, I would say, don't be afraid to run for certain offices. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, if that makes sense. Be writing to your board, be talking to your board, be talking to even your senators and representatives, because this can also affect how the school operates eventually if they try to
And these people
laws.
are supposed
There's
to...
a lot of different routes you can do this through, but
These people are supposed to be...
politics.
They're going to be for you. They're for the people, right? They're
Should
not...
be.
They're representing you, so go talk to them. Like you were saying, go make sure they know what you want.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
in
mean to
this
cut you
case,
off there,
it's
but
not necessarily... No, you're good. In this case, it's not necessarily that state government in out of... Well, it is the state government. It's not... It's the board. It's not... Yes, it'll eventually tie in, and it has some very heavy tie-ins. I don't always compare it to the same way I might see the legislature of Michigan, for example. But otherwise, if they keep doing this... parents of kids that are going to be in these school systems, I suggest you be Michigan, because
and on that
Minnesota,
cringy
Michigan,
note,
yep,
we are going to end the episode because my heart hurts. But guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Drop a comment with your thoughts. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and peace out.